With going back to The Boys, recently you made a comment that you felt The Boys was actually easier to put to screen.
That Preacher.
Way more Preacher. Do you feel that you might want to have any involvement, or is there any involvement with you putting this to screen at all?
No. The last guy asked me that actually. He was talking about the notion of once something is sold, how much involvement I might have, and the answer is it depends. If they commission me to do work, then I'll get involved. But if they're simply asking for my advice, well, then I'm a little more leery, because you find yourself doing a lot of work, writing a lot of notes on someone's screenplay, for instance, that might be then completely ignored.
Right.
So is it really worth your while? I might if I felt that I was going to be listened to, but on Preacher and The Boys, I'm happy to just step back and let it be what it's going to be.
I mean, there's a famous example where Frank Miller and RoboCop 2, he wrote it a particular way, and then they went and changed it.
That's a little different, because RoboCop wasn't Frank's to begin with. Yeah. He was commissioned as a screenwriter to write a sequel to someone else's story. But I think that's another aspect of this. You are entirely at their mercy when you start writing screenplays, when you start writing spec scripts. If you're not going to direct that screenplay, you are giving up all control the instant you turn in the work, and you have to accept that.
If you had a choice, some really obvious answers here, but if you had a choice, who would you have play The Boys? I mean, Simon Pegg, the obvious
Actually, no. The thing about Simon is he's very nearly my height. He's not a little bloke. Right. So if he was going to play Huey, Butcher would have to be a giant. I would say, I think Clive Owen would make a great Butcher.
Right.
Because it's not enough to just cast a big guy. You've got to have a great actor in that role. Someone who's
strong charisma.
Someone who really has the attitude. The fella, I'm going to get his name wrong. The Scottish guy who was, I think he's really doing well at the minute. He was in Wanted and in the Idi Amin flick. Last King of Scotland. James, I think he's just in an X-Men.
I can't remember that. I know who you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
He'd be really good as Huey. Frenchie would be Vincent Castle, because he was based on Vincent Castle. again, could you find someone big enough? Michael Clark Duncan.
Wow.
And the female could really be anyone who doesn't mind looking homeless.
The girl from The Ring. I always thought the girl from The Ring. It's just like, she seems so innocent, and then all of a sudden they seem to walk in and distraction.
I don't think I remember her. But anyone who doesn't mind dressing like a bum for 2 months.
Japanese?
Yep.
Yeah? Yep. And what about the Seven?
God, I haven't even thought about that.
You've got a Superman archetype character in there, and that's going to be hard to...
Yeah, again, you're going to need someone sort of large and physically imposing there too. No, that's a good question, actually. I haven't thought of it. Maeve would be an interesting one to cast, because you'd want, the attractive older woman who's got just the right kind of attitude. Virginia Madsen mightn't be bad. You could see her sitting around with her martini.
Definitely an attitude as well. Brilliant diva. Preacher is being made by the sounds of things, or they're trying to.
They've been trying to.
There's been all these rumours that saying Shia LaBeouf's going to play Arseface.
I think what this comes down to is someone once said that aloud, and it then became taken as read. I think he may have read Preacher. I think he may be a bit of an Arseface fan. I don't know if it would go beyond that. Preacher, frankly, I'll believe it when I see it. They've been talking about a Preacher movie now for 15 years, and we're frankly no closer than we've ever been. Every couple of years, the option gets sold, names get thrown around. I don't put a lot of credence in it really until I actually see something happening in front of me.
Right, until it's actually being
and Preacher, frankly, is the hardest of the lot. It's an incredibly difficult one to do.
How many films do you think it would take to actually, because there's a lot of books, I mean, how many films do you think it would take to fulfill that?
God, I don't know. I know this. The comic is nearly 1,500, maybe 2,000 pages long, and I know that because I've looked at this. The structure of it is such that if you pull one card out of the pyramid, the whole lot goes down.
Yeah.
That's the problem with that story. It's not like The Boys where you could just isolate 5 characters and say, these guys beat up superheroes, because there's your pitch in one line. Yeah. Preacher, it's like, well, you see, there's this guy and he's got the word of God and he's searching for God who's gone missing, and his girlfriend's she's like sort of an assassin, and his friend's a vampire. Oh, and there's the Saint of Killers, and did I mention Archbase? Well, there's this secret society called the Grail, and this fella Star is in charge of that. And you know, by this stage, they're probably looking at you like you're a maniac. So that's incredibly difficult. The other problem is that it's blasphemy, and getting a major studio or TV company to put serious money, the kind of money you need, behind something that is going to really slice its own audience in half from the beginning is very, very tricky. Mark Johnson, who I worked with briefly on the failed HBO attempt on Preacher, he put it very well. He said, no one's ever done this before. This is what's going to sink us. No one's ever done this before. No one's done a TV show where they've said God exists, but he's a dick.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. If anything kills us, it'll be that.
Yeah.
And it did.
There was this, I remember this one cartoon that had a guy, God, and sitting together, and the devil, me, Bob, and the devil, something like that. And I know that went off air because straight away it was no good.
Yeah, you're not going to piss off too many people.
So I can imagine it being really difficult, especially in the US.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that if Preacher ever did really make the screen, it would be in a form that would either be completely unrecognizable or utterly lacking the religious aspect. Do you feel like, you know, because it's your child, in effect, this is, you know, you've grown the story from birth to how it is and the legacy that it is now, I mean, you know, it's so big. Do you ever feel that whatever manifestation it will take, that now you feel like you need to step back and say, well, this isn't what I made, you know, because Alan Moore had that kind of thing. Right. Well, that's what we do at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. You step back and you say, this is not going to be what I made, and therefore I will accept that. These 9 books, or 6 in hardcover, or whatever, this is what Steve Dillon and I did, and this is going to be out there in this form forever. And I'm happy with that. What the film might be, if it resembles what we did, well, then that's a happy coincidence.
Well, I hear there's a missing book. Is that right? There's one that they didn't publish?
Yeah, well, not that it ever actually got done. There was going to be another Preacher special called Bob and Freddy's House of Fun, and it was the sex detectives who appeared briefly in Preacher. I think they had like 2 appearances.
Right.
And it was going to be a sort of a madcap story about them investigating a murder in the San Francisco underworld.
Yeah.
And it was just filthy beyond description, and Karen Berger never wanted to publish it, and I never really pushed particularly hard. Who knows, it might happen one day.
Still think that there's the opportunity.
It's a possibility.
Well, the way that morality in the world is changing over the years, things seem to be more and more acceptable to do.
I think it's more a question of vertigo and its survival or otherwise.
Right.
Obviously, the imprint is being reduced almost daily, and there may come a point when, through sheer desperation, they want to bring in a financial win.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.